Okay, see if that's gone live. If you can check on the stream as well, if you can what's called hear us both, that'd be great.
Yeah. Let me just my phone on. Just
Well, if you can what's called hear us both, that'd be great. Oh yeah, we're live.
yeah, we can hear us both.
Okay. We'll wait for a couple comments for a couple viewers to tune in, and then we'll get underway. I can see Evo's there. Yeah, okay. Jesse's there as well. So, Zoot, shall we start then? Okay,
Right.
well, hello and welcome to the very off-the-cuff, made-on-the-day, Frl Mid S16 podcast, or just a stream, I guess, having a chat with Mr. Zook about everything kind of season 16 based, and while we have this kind of Christmassy break. Hello Zook, how are you doing, of course?
Hello, I'm not too bad. I'm looking forward just to going through all this, really. It's been a good season so far, so...
Yeah, it's been a really good season, actually, especially with attendance and everything, so it'll be exciting, obviously, to see the second half as well as the first half, but this is obviously just going over the first half and looking at a few things. So we'll start off with the F3 standings. So, obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, no F4 this season, of course, because with the numbers last season, we're back down to 3 tiers. But, Zook, once again, it's Mr. JB topping the standings for the bottom tier, but he's taken 3 wins out of 5, and JB's looking quite strong, isn't he, at the moment in F3?
Yeah, I mean, it's what JB does, really. He's a consistent driver as well, and he's getting the results. I mean, after last season, a lot of people, maybe it'd be a bit difficult to hold on to the title, but he's definitely proven that he has what it takes to become a 2-time FRL champion. And not a lot of people can say that, to be fair. But worrying thing for JB is Scar's consistency because, as I found out as well, he's only one of 2 drivers this season to have a 100% podium record.
Yeah.
The other one being talked about later. Also, the Red Bull boys as well. I know they've been practicing really hard and they took the other 2 wins. And they work for each other. So it's going to be interesting, really, but I could see it being possibly just a 4-way title fight. Maybe O'Steven could get in there, but I feel like he's going to become best of the rest at this point.
Yeah, like you said, it's very close near the top. As you said, Scar finding some almighty consistency, which we'll definitely talk about later. But it's quite interesting, obviously, to see all the top 5 there. They've all, over previous seasons, maybe apart from Scar, they've been kind of up there fighting for titles. So it's actually quite nice to see the likes of Scar back up there, but the Red Bull boys as well, in terms of playing the team game, that could come in handy. Given they've got 2 drivers out there, same as McLaren as well, they could definitely help each other across the races. And looking over, obviously, to the constructors, you can see Red Bull only holding a 9-point advantage. Obviously, both Red Bull and McLaren scoring points at every single race. We've only had 4, or 5 if you count the sprint. But it seems once again, just like last season when it was, I think it was Haas with Little Brookie and JB against Alfa Romeo, which was O'Steven and I think Humanoid. This once again looks like there's the bottom tier going to have a very exciting constructors battle as well, doesn't it?
I mean, unfortunately with Lil Brookie, obviously his consistency from last season hasn't really crossed over. DNFing a lot, unfortunately for him. And I know the Red Bull boys, they've had a bit of bad luck. I know they had a bit of bad luck in the sprint round with POP not scoring, and obviously DNF in Monaco. But realistically speaking, I feel like it's going to be Red Bull versus McLaren. Haas will be like their fourth, third, and if a little Brookie can bring his consistency from F4 last year, then they can definitely get to the constructors' battle. It's not over. Speaking about it, but Alpine as well. Martina scoring the points for him. Alfa Romeo have started to find some groove with unfortunately with Lewis not scoring the last few races, but getting with an coming into his own with the wheel, obviously making a switch. So you could see Alfa Romeo possibly make a charge for the top three. It really depends on the consistency of Red Bull, McLaren, and Haas.
Yeah, Alfa Romeo could definitely get up there. Ferrari a bit of fall from grace over the last few seasons, sadly. But I can't see little Brookie on the standings. I might be wrong, but has he not been added or has he quit? I'm not too sure. But maybe you know more
Well,
than
right,
me.
he's 20th with 4 DNFs.
Oh, okay. That's a lot of DNS. Well, yeah, definitely little Brookie not really following on from his, I guess, very good run towards the back end of last season, therefore. But we'll move on to F2 swiftly and smoothly. As you can see, F2 standings. Obviously, the middle tier of FRL, and looking once again very close with the top four all within 13 points. You've got two Dutchmen, as always, up there, but you got Arno, which I think we all expected right at the top end, fighting for wins once again. But the grid all round, you got, I mean, all the top 13 drivers have scored 20 points. You got podium for you, Sadio Mane down in 13th. I wouldn't expect Sadio Mane to be that low, but the grid's very competitive, isn't it?
I mean, obviously I race in the tier, but it's a great tier, to be honest. It's such close racing, and it actually shows as well. I mean, from 5th down to 13th, from Edzat to Stadio, there's only 12 points in it. And I mean, you could technically count F2 as like the championship. It is always so close, and you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, in Silverstone, for example, the strategy came into play with like with the front guys all making really early stop. It's just you can't really call it with F2. I mean, you never know what's going to happen until the race actually finishes.
Yeah.
I mean, as well with the stats side of it, it's the only tier. It's got the most podium sitters this season so far, with 10, and F1 and F3 doesn't even come close. I think combined they don't even beat how many F2 have had this season, which is it's incredible to say, really.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's just high quality racing throughout, and even if you look at the constructors, I know we're not focusing on it right now, it is still super close.
Yeah. I mean, 5 points covers the top three there as well. I mean, I think it's I would say it's probably sparked a few interesting kind of turning points. In terms of my predictions, I put Barra right at the top, and as you can see right there at the bottom, although he's missed 3 races, he's down in 17th. I don't think anyone would have expected that. Barra already, you might say, out of the championship fight. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but then you got obviously Bobby, who was fighting F3 last season. He's down in 6th, but generally speaking, just like you said, 5th down to 13th, you get a 4th place finish or score 12 more than your kind of competitors, and right away you're up about 8 positions. So it's very close. And even looking at the DJSA in 8th to 2nd places, maybe he can join a championship fight. If he's got 2 second places, he looks quite fast himself. But yeah, F2 very close. Everyone in F2 in terms of constructors wise has scored points, minimum of 22. So really not much in terms of leeway. In terms of if you do go on a poor run, it looks like you could fall right to the bottom of the pack at the moment. Obviously AlphaTauri there at the bottom, but very probably the closest tier out of the 3. And we shall move on to the F1 standings, which as you can see, obviously the top tier at the moment, the top driver is Jensen with a healthy lead of 26 points over Macho. But obviously much more competitive compared to last season. Last season, it was Lou running away with it by this point. Lou, obviously, down in 14th, he left, I think, in Monaco, just before Monaco. But as you can see, I mean, it's a lot of good drivers there, and maybe some drivers higher than I would have expected. But any surprises leaping out at you, Evil Zook, looking at the standings?
I mean, yeah, it does look like it's going to be Macho versus Jensen at the moment. I mean, Messi's consistently been up there, apart from the sprint, obviously, which wasn't really his fault. He just it was a mistake, and you can't really recover in the sprint that well. But it's just one of them where consistency has been key, especially with Jensen. I mean, he's just been on fire, and Gap proves it, really. I mean, can't really I'm not doing the maths. I think 26 points between Jet and Macho right now. It does look to be a runaway right now, but 8 more rounds, I think it can happen.
Yeah, I mean, also, if you look further down the grid, if you want to estimate to how quick it's got, Hawk last season, I think he was fighting for 5th or 4th in the drivers. He's down in 18th, which is almost as bad as season 14, where Hawk was right down there with the likes of me, David, when we did have David in the top tier. But this grid's absolutely rapid. I mean, Ruti Hiller, one of the best drivers FRL's ever seen. He's right down there in 17th. Very competitive grid. But what looks a bit more interesting is obviously the constructors. You've got Macho and Keke. Keke obviously now taking that Mercedes seat in 4th. And obviously changing his PSN as well to NLR Keke. Those two Mercedes guys are only 2 points behind AlphaTauri with Zero and Jensen. Zero seems to be doing his bit. Last 4 races, as you can see, obviously he scored points. But who do you back out of those two, Zook, to go all the way?
I mean, Macho and Keke. I've watched them throughout the season so far because of them. I tuned into the F1 races. They work so well together, and realistically speaking. And I don't want to sound rude saying it. Zero does need to step it up a little bit more to get Jensen and himself back constructors title. I know they can work absolutely amazing together, and Zero he is talented. But the issue is Macho and Keke are both consistently fighting for podiums. Zero does need to bolster a bit into like that 7th and possibly 7th and 6th just to get them points for the AlphaTauri team.
Yeah, I mean, Zero scoring points is good, but obviously to win a championship, you need both drivers performing. You see that time and time over and over again. But it'd be good to see Zero get right back up there. And I mean, if Zero did get back up there, you'd imagine with the way Jensen's performing, it would be an easy championship to AlphaTauri. If Jensen did win the constructors with Zero, I think it'd be all his championships with Alphas. In terms of Alfa Romeo, I think he's got 2. And I think he's got AlphaTauri as well. So he's enjoying his time in the Alpha teams. But in terms of the rest of the grid, yeah, you can see the midfield very, very close. Evo and Watermelon. I mean, Watermelon even got a podium in the sprint race, which stunned me when I was racing there. So, and Pepin obviously having a podium in Bahrain. But still, most of those podiums going to the top guys because they're just a tier above the rest. But F1... absolutely stacked grid as usual, and as we'll come on to, maybe as well the reserves could play a bit of a part. But the next talking point is, can JB win back-to-back titles? And I'll start off by saying I think the way JB's going with 3 wins out of 5, I think he'll probably win back-to-back titles in F3, which is quite crazy for a man who, obviously, it took him probably around 10 or 12 seasons, however long he's raced in FRL, and he finally won FRL F3. I say finally, but he's always been the bridesmaid and never the bride, JB. But he obviously won last season with only 2 wins, so not the most dominant of championships. But this time he's already taken 3 wins, already beaten his tally last season. And I probably would have expected VIP to be right up there, probably ahead of JB. But at the moment JB's doing the business. But I'll launch a question over to you, Zoo. Do you think JB will be able to win back-to-back titles?
He's proven time and time again he can win races. The big issue is really I've got is if, for example, look at Bahrain 6th. He can't really have too many of them races in Bahrain, especially with the consistency Scar is showing at the moment. Bear in mind as well, Yuri and VIP, they're stepping up their game even more now to try and at least secure the constructors, if not a driver's title for one of them. And I mean, VIP, he's won a title before. JB's won, obviously, last year's F4. Both F4 champions, really, in their own right. But like, JB just needs to keep showing he can win races. Yes, he can have, like, one-off race, but he can't afford too many because Gar will possibly keep his run going of just podiums every race.
Mm-hmm.
And, see, don't want to be dropping too many points in a title race. I know it all too well. But I think it's going to be a close title race, but I think he can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it will definitely be interesting. I think towards the back end of the season, obviously Yuri's still getting used to wheel. I don't think he's anywhere close to probably his potential. So that'll be interesting to see if he can dominate the back end of last season. It could be a case of T-Hawk and obviously Macho, the brilliant championship battle we had in F2 a few seasons back, where T-Hawk dominated the first few races, and then Macho towards the back end of the season just found some monstrous pace and won the title. So you don't count Yuri out. I think O'Steven, I don't think he's going to be in a championship fight.
You can't rule O'Steven out.
Maybe you can't, considering he came so close last season. It's just a shame he can't be right up there this season. But JB probably enjoying FRL very much. I mean, he's in the championship 2 times in a row, whereas previously he was not really anywhere close. And Scar as well, the Scotsman, doing very well. So that will be a very exciting championship to keep an eye out for. And the next talking point, staying with F3, is Mr. Scar back? Keeping on the topic. As you can see, I've littered the screen with loads of Scar seasons in the past. The order is quite jumbled up, but you can guess by like the colours. But as you can see, Scar before this season was absolutely inconsistent with it, very consistently DNFing at least. Not one of his kind of... He just had a very poor run of seasons. But now, as you can see, as you said, one of 2 drivers to score podiums at all the races so far. Maybe he's found his tier where he can obviously compete. But either way, Azuk, Scar seems to be right back in the thick of it in terms of the championship fight, doesn't he? And just in general, seems to be right on it.
I mean, mentioned before about with no TC stuff, he started to adapt to it and took it absolutely incredibly. And honestly, the consistency he has shown, and some of the races he has been a bit unlucky not to win, realistically speaking. And I think that win is coming very, very soon for him. The second half of the season. Any point he'll win at least one race. So back my words, we'll win a race this year. Obviously, if he can just keep his consistency up, it only takes 1 or 2 slip-ups from JB, and Scar is right on him. He can just pounce at any point for that title. And obviously, with O'Steven, it could be a shout for both titles, realistically speaking. It's 2-horse race at the moment for the constructors between them and Red Bull. And Red Bull, the 2 Dutchies, they are absolutely shown so much consistency, but they've shown slip-ups and signs of like, that's good teamwork, but get into a few incidents with other drivers, obviously VIP in the sprint, for example.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be close between Scar and JB. You can't rule any of these 5 out. I don't think you can rule out Matena.
Oh, yeah. We haven't got him there, do we? I think he's in 6th, but he maybe can't, yeah.
He's only 5 points off O'Steven, and he is carrying that Alpine team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all the drivers, and we were only 4 rounds in, it must be said, and we've got a 12-round championship, or I think it's a 12-round championship. So we've got plenty of rounds left to make up the difference. But it's nice. I think everyone can say it's nice to see Scar back right at the front. I think Scar would have been happy to be kind of top of the midfield, but to be in with the shot of a championship, he's probably pinching himself right now. He might get nosebleed being that far up, but yeah. He did so many DNFs across the course of the last 3 seasons, but he's really coming into his own at the moment in F3, so which is great to see. Same with the likes of JB. He seems to just be in a good frame of mind and at the moment doing the business in F3, but definitely, Scar does seem to be back. Hopefully he doesn't absolutely flop second half of the season. That would be quite disappointing. But maybe he'll be the only driver to score podiums across all the races. Who knows? That'd be quite crazy. But moving on to the F2 talking points. I have the question: is F2 the closest grid out of the 3 in FRL? And as we went on about already, and who will win it, it's a very, very close grid with Arno, Football Nitro, Bueller and Sen, and then obviously the Constructors battle as well. Starting off with Yuzuk in terms of, do you think it's the closest grid in FRL? If you compare it to F1 and compare it to F3, would you say F2 from top to bottom and in general, would you say it's the closest, most competitive grid in FRL?
Yeah, it 100% is. It's probably the only tier this season where you are not guaranteed points. No matter your pace, no matter where you are in the championship, it's the only tier where you are just not guaranteed points. You got to put in the work for it. And I know that sounds obvious saying it like that, but I think it was like so. Bahrain, for example, I improved by about 1/10 on my lap. I went from 13th straight to 6th. Qualifying gaps, every race this season has been immense, immensely close, and anything is possible in F2. And as I'm seeing in the comments, Stephen saying nobody cares about F2. Everyone cares about F2. It is the best tier this season. It is the closest one for the racing as well as how close we are on the points. And realistically, anyone can win the title.
Definitely.
Anyone can win a race in this tier.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the only tier this year at least 10 people will win a race, honestly. It's the one we got the most likely with.
You would have thought maybe it'd be dead and buried with Arno in it, but with Arno seeming not being able to perform, and like you said, with just how close it seems to be in qualifying. I remember watching Bahrain and other tracks like China. Obviously with Britain it was a one-shot quali, so the same can't really be said. Same with Monaco, very technique. But Bahrain and China, the grid seems to be so stacked and so close. It's obviously from a spectator's point of view, watching FRL live, it's probably one of the most entertaining tiers, with qualifying especially, where all the drivers are so close. You don't know who's going to suddenly leap up to the top. In terms of the racing as well, the driving, it seems to be... we always used to mock F3 last season, saying it was the dirtiest tier. And F3 has usually been one of the more dirtier tiers. And with a lot of F3 guys now in F2, I don't think there's been as many complaints. I might be wrong, but it seems as though maybe it's slightly calmed down. I could be wrong there, Zeke. So please butt in if I'm completely going off the wrong way. But it seems to be a lot cleaner, a lot more competitive, and in general it seems to be a lot more entertaining. But over for the second question, who do you think will win the drivers, Zook, and who do you think will win the constructors?
As much as I want to say I'm going to win the drivers and the Steelers will win the constructors, it's not happening.
I don't think it is.
We're not. No. I wish it would happen, but honestly, I think you can't call it. It's too close.
Mm-hmm. But if you had to call it, Zook, what would you say?
The dream one would be me and Mercedes, yes. It's not happening. So, you know what? I'm gonna put Sen to win the title.
Ooh. From fourth. He's still only 13 points off, and he's taken a win in the sprint, although it was in a sprint. But in terms of constructors, did he say Red Bull?
Didn't say any team.
Oh, sorry. Well, we'll pose another question. Who do you think will win constructors out of the three shown there? I mean, there could be another team, but those are the top three at the moment.
Williams.
With Mr. Bueller and Mr. Edzak. Obviously, both from F2 as well, so staying in a tier. Any particular reason?
They're the only team right now to have 2 drivers in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Edzak is really close to. I mean, obviously, he's only 12 points off 13, but still been up there every race. And also, controversially saying 7th to win the title, he's finished behind me in the last 2 races. So
Had to get it in there.
Monaco and feature. I had to bring it up, but honestly, I think then we'll bring home a Ferrari championship, but he will be carrying the Ferrari team. Sphinx has just not been up there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 7th for the title and Williams for the constructors. What about you, Bunty?
Looking at that grid, I am absolutely gobsmacked that Football Nitro is that high up when he was in F4. I think he's leapt up 2 tiers and he's still competing at the top. So I would probably say Football Nitro. Because, I mean, if he keeps improving at this rate, give him 2 seasons and he could be up there with Jensen if Jensen's still around. It's quite crazy just how much he's improved. Obviously, joined F4 halfway through and started really fighting with the likes of Brookie and JB. But I'd probably say Football Nitro. And in terms of the constructors, I'd probably, like you said, I'd agree with you and go Williams just because Edzak, you've got the consistency with Edzak, although at the moment he's obviously you can see a bit of pink and a bit of blue there with the 12th in Bahrain and a retirement in the sprint. And obviously Bueller having that raw pace, I'd probably back them. They know the tier very well. They're both experienced in FRL. Bueller obviously is a champion in himself. I probably expect them to go all the way. So that is my take on it. But definitely, to answer the question, is F2 the closest grid in FRL? I definitely think it is when you compare it to F1 and F3. So yeah, I think that answers the question, and we'll move on to the F1 talking points, the last 2 talking points before we end off the podcast, which is... Oh no, this is still F2, my bad. I don't even know my own podcast. Oh my god. Well, there you go, quite a colourful image for you there. I've got, is this the weakest F2 grid since Season 6? Which may sound quite negative, but as we already alluded to, it comes along with a very competitive grid. But I showed there the Season 6 grid with obviously Macho, T-Hawk, and you still got the likes of Edzak, Rackler, Mike Van Dongen, quite a few drivers who are still in the F2 grids, and then obviously got the champions of Pepin, Flex, David, and Macho.
That's Season 7, not Season 6. Please get it right.
Oh my goodness. Well, since Season 7. But you get the point. I mean, I'll start off by saying, obviously, over the last few F2 seasons, we've had, obviously, even Montana, I think, and possibly Kazizel in the very first season have won it. But obviously, the last few seasons, we had Pepin, Flex, David, Macho, drivers who are obviously absolutely rapid, who all in their own right are now probably F1 pace, or with like Macho, he's even fighting for the title. So you've got very fast drivers who have dominated. But in terms of the grid at the moment we have, with how close it is, and probably the likes of Rackler and Michael Van Dongen there in the midfield, and then you look at F2 seasons 6 and 7, and they're towards the front. I don't know, it's probably a bit tough to say, and maybe it's a bit of a silly question, but even JB there, looking in F2 Season 7, down in 9th with 70 points, and now he's F3. Would you say, Zook, the grid's improved from the grid we're seeing there with F2 Season 7 to right now? And do you think it's got closer, or... I mean, it may be a silly question after you already spoke about it, but do you think it's closer or got a little bit more spread out since that F2 Season 7 grid?
It's a lot closer. And, I mean... Looking over at both grids, you got 5 drivers who were in that F2 Season 7 grid, now in the F2 Season 11 grid. I mean, 4 of them were realistically scoring points every single race. The other one was absolutely terrible, diabolical driving, but still scored points somehow. But I mean, it's a lot closer, and honestly, you're going to get the trade-off of like you might have a few slower drivers compared to this grid.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot closer to racing, and it's a lot more enjoyable for the viewers and the commentators to watch and commentate over. And I mean, you could say that it has improved. I mean, if you go direct comparison with me in both seasons, I mean, from 4 points to now where I am, it's not too bad now.
Yeah, as a driver, obviously you improved. I mean, looking at Ezak, as you said, he's still there. Ratcliffe, Michael Van Dongen as well. I think most people would probably, with nostalgia, they may say that F2 Season 7 grid's more enjoyable. But in terms of, if you look at the last maybe 4 seasons, the champions I put out before, and how dominant their seasons were compared to how Arno's finding it now. I mean, obviously Pepin ran away with the title after being put in F2, maybe as a mistake. But Flex as well, that season was a bit, seemed like a three-way fight, and he ran off with it with immense consistency. And then David, obviously, once again, was absolutely on fire the whole season. And Macho, of course, speaks for himself. He was absolutely rapid the whole way through. But the grid now, it's nothing that's... No champion can kind of take anything for granted. With you have an off day and you're almost out of the points you could be. Or like we saw, with Edzak, he DNF'd, or in Bahrain, he was out the points, which was quite surprising. So this grid right now, maybe it is slightly weaker in terms of driver for driver at the top. Like Macho, if you compare him to Arno, I think Macho's faster. And probably T-Hawk, if you compare him to someone like Sen, maybe T-Hawk you'd probably back then. But then you compare it to now, the grid as a whole, and I think it's so close. Probably the F2 season, what are we now? I think it's season 11 right now. Probably is a lot faster in the midfield and a lot closer in the midfield as well. Not sure if you agree with me.
Oh, I mean, with the season 7 grid, I don't take anything away from anyone, but realistically, with Macho, T-Hawk, like the top 7, really, I'm gonna have to include 7th. Could realistically say Michael as well. The issue was as well, they could take an extra pit stop, for example, when, like, for example, did Sloop, Matey Boy, all them. Was a lot more dominated back then, and as you can just see there, the gap between Michael F1 and JB prove it. There was a clear top 8 who would just score points every week when they could. Then you had just the bottom half, which was scraping the 9th, 10th, and then just finishing the race. And I do like how it's a lot closer these days, and I mean, you can't take anything for granted. You can't make that extra pit stop if you need to, for example, because you're just going to lose out so much.
And
way you could have made it back up.
With obviously now having 3 tiers, whereas back then, I think F2 Season 7, we had just the 2 tiers. If any driver back in F2 Season 7 was too slow, we couldn't move them down a tier, whereas now we could. So that kind of backs up your point. That, now it's the bottom few drivers. I think I put the likes of Tex-Rex in the bottom. They're still performing very well, and they'd still probably clean up F3. So it's a very, very good grid at the moment in F2. And to probably answer that point, maybe to conclude, driver for driver near the top, the likes of Macho and F2 Season 7 are probably quicker. But as a whole, I think maybe the grid's stronger. One of the strongest grids we've had, maybe, in a while in F2 Season 7, F2 Season 11, probably one of the strongest grids we've had for a while. Yeah.
Definitely one of the strongest.
Definitely. So, moving on to the F1. And have I missed one? No, I haven't. Wait. Oh, no.
You haven't.
Well, this is the next talking point. I might need to double check I haven't missed that point. But the next one is, can Gents become a 3-time FRL champion? And obviously, as you can see in the middle there, if you're obviously watching on the stream, Gents with 2 championships at the moment, 21 wins. And if he obviously wins the championship, he will move on to 3 alongside Bullboy. Bullboy, obviously, though, those 3 were very kind of cheap championships, considering there was 12 drives turning up a week. I think Steven said it before, but as you can see, obviously Jensen won in season 12 and season 13. We are now season 16. As 14 was Montana, 15 was Lou. So can Jensen win become a 3-time champion? Zook, what are we thinking?
The thing is with this title race now, realistically speaking, KK is going to do what he can to help Macho. He's going to play more of I don't want it to sound wrong because he's finished. He's going to be playing the Valtteri Bottas role at the team, basically. He will basically become the second driver for Macho. And he will basically move side to get Macho as many points as he can to gain on Jensen. And if Zero's not up there, Jensen's basically fighting a 2-on-1 battle. And I mean, we've seen what he can do before. I mean, that season 12 championship was absolutely dominant. Season 13, it was basically a 1v1 against. No, he had help from Macho to beat Baraka. And it sounds so wrong saying it that way, but you need a teammate there to help you. And yes, it's a drivers' championship. Get it on your own. But if you're fighting basically a 2-on-1 battle, it'll be a lot harder for yourself.
Definitely. And yeah, like you said, I mean, Jensen at the moment, without the help of Zero, he is slightly maybe struggling in terms of the likes of Macho. Does have the NLR Keke to help him in the championship, but you compare it to his previous seasons. I think Jensen, when he won with Alfa Romeo twice, I can't obviously remember exactly the circumstances, but I think it was a fairly dominant season. I remember in season 13 he won it in Singapore when we had full calendars, which was incredibly early.
Season 12 was won in Singapore.
Season 12 was won in Singapore, but I think even season 13, I can't remember who he was against. Baraka, that was it. And obviously, that was quite good. I think it was Macho in the end who kind of decided it with him in Australia, obviously colliding with Baraka. But
won it by 45 points.
45 points, which isn't massive, whereas I think season 12, it was quite a lot bigger, probably.
I'm just going to do the maths quickly.
In season 12, I think it was quite a big gap. As you can see there, 10 wins, 17 podiums. Quite dominant.
Season 12 was a small margin really from NTC. It was only a small 165 point gap.
Yeah, I mean, as you can tell by that, I mean, I think he's had it fairly easy in season 12, and then season 13 obviously not as comfortable, but still won. And then at the moment this season, it looks like Macho could become like a Baraka, whereas Jensen will slowly pull away over time and eventually maybe take an easy championship. Can you leave outside, Mum, please?
Yeah,
I'm just streaming. Bye-bye.
And Bunty has mute in a second.
Yes, I am back. But as I said, I think it will be interesting to see if Jensen obviously can win again a third championship, which would take him closer as well to obviously Montana. So, yeah. I mean, do you think he can do it, Zook, if I haven't asked already?
I mean, Macho is going to be fired up as well. I believe, is this just F1 championships on these stats, I believe?
This is F1, yeah.
That was 4 F1. I thought you won 3 F1 and F2.
Mr. Montana obviously won 1 in GHR and then I think 3 championships.
Okay, yeah. That's where it was. Realistically speaking, Macho's going to want to get his second FRL title as well. I mean, I know it's an F2 title, but it's still a title. He's going to want to get his second in FRL and make his first in F1. So it's going to be a good title race, really. Macho's going to have to help kick it. It's going to be interesting to see, though, if Zero will be able to help Jensen as much as he can. A bit like a Jay Benham, just defend for his life. Stay out when he can and just defend for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Start Zero Expresses.
Yeah, I mean, Jensen, obviously, probably one of discounting Montana, I think the second best driver in FRL, because whenever he's on the grid, you always know it's going to be he's going to be right up there fighting at the very front. But as we said already, I think it's a two-way fight, if a fight at all, with Macho. Macho was on the same point as Jensen before in terms of before coming into Silverstone. But Jensen at his home Grand Prix, obviously taking wins in the sprint as well as the feature, he does seem to be on the front foot, and obviously wins and championship wise, in terms of going down as one of the best, he's going to be probably going second if he obviously can win the championship, which it would be very interesting. Maybe in season 17 Montana would come back to prevent Jensen equaling him. That would be quite crazy if that happened. But
we'd have to get Montana back and have a Jensen versus Montana.
Yeah, we'd have to probably pay Montana to return, just like he paid Montana paid to get his seat in season 14. But yeah, I mean, to answer the question, I probably think he's going to do it over Macho, because Macho, obviously, this is probably his first chance at an F1 title. So although he won F2, but that was completely different circumstances. I don't think he's probably got prepared yet. I mean, also if you compare like Jensen to Macho in terms of PSGL, obviously Jensen one of the quickest drivers on PlayStation. Macho, obviously, he's still trying to get up to his full potential. Obviously, only recently really going no assists. So it'll be interesting to see, obviously, if Jensen can do the business. Kind of threaten Montana's record of 4 FRL/GHR titles. But Zook, have you said it already? Do you think Jensen will be able to do the business?
Yeah, there's another point that actually just came to me as well. With team base as well, Shazoo.
Yeah.
He's gonna have, because currently there's a chance that Steph's gonna take the vacant Aston Martin seat, and Tom's already got the Red Bull seat. Does Shazoo also play a factor in helping Jensen win this title? Unless they somehow get into the title race, which, I mean, Tom and Steph, they're both really talented drivers. I mean, Steph's literally just been put into PSGL F1 now. I'm not sure where Tom is, but I believe he's in F1 as well. But could Tom and Steph play a part in helping Jensen win this title if they're not in the title race themselves?
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I had a slide on how big of a part will the reserves play? Obviously,
Just talk about it here if you want.
yeah. I'm confused why it's not really coming up, but I think Jensen does seem to be obviously the out and out favourite to win it. It'll be interesting to see if Macho can maybe pose a bit of a threat at all to Jensen. I'm just trying to get the PowerPoint up and running. But if I can do this, we can talk. Maybe in the meantime, Mr. Zook, could you maybe have a little chat to the viewers about the F2 stands while I'll try and make it work?
I mean, this season's been great so far. Obviously, I might as well start talking about the reserve part of this if you want.
Yeah, sure.
While you get listening. I mean, with the reserves, speaking on it, like, the amount of reserves that have been brought into F1, it is unreal. And I'm just quickly updating it so I can get the full list. The standards of reserves, a lot of them are, you could say, every single one are race winning standards, and I'm just going to go through Inky, Lucas, Michelito, Mentos, Ruti, which got Paco, Pyro, Chris, Steph, which might be going to Aston Martin, TVA, JR Daniel, and RT Indigo, and JR Slinky. And honestly, I'm just watching this as like Bunty just trying to find the reserve side.
Yeah, I'm trying my best. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, if you look at the reserves, it'll be interesting to see if like the likes of Steph can maybe win a few races and try and maybe hinder Jensen, because obviously, and Tom at the start, he was a reserve and then came into Monaco out of absolutely nowhere and obviously challenged Jensen for the win, but Jensen managed to get it after Tom got disqualified, even though Tom did beat him. So, next season, if we still get the reserves and obviously Tom staying around, it will be a very close championship with multiple drives, not just Macho. But, at the moment, it does seem as though the reserves, it's a bit too late for them to come in and kind of affect things. But I don't seem to be able to get the PowerPoint up, so I guess I will get up if I can do it. There we go. Now, thanks for watching for everyone. But obviously, Zook, overall, it's safe to say the next half of the season will be a very exciting one. Obviously, across all tiers, nothing is a given in terms of winning the championship. So, any last words before we end it off, Zook?
Just speaking on a quick point about the season, basically. The goal is to make season 17, the F1 tier, faster than PSGL F1. Let's try and do that.
Mission impossible. Yeah.
That would be impossible, but we can try. Cosplay could be an option. Who knows? See, I could just let you know when we can do it. Because I'm testing it whenever. But don't forget to like, subscribe. As social media, we're aiming for 1,000 subs on the FRL Live channel.
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying.
Yeah, but also follow Twitter, Instagram, TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
The link should be in the description, but I ain't sure because I did update the description, but it didn't update on everyone's.
Hopefully you enjoyed. This podcast was very off the cuff, if you can't tell. I don't know why it didn't load the F1 reserve thing, but it's fine. We still obviously talked about everything we intended to. And we did. I think this is the first probably FRL podcast type thing ever. So it's
hopefully not last.
Hopefully not last. The quality of the graphics have been decent, but as you can tell from us, obviously, we haven't had much time to prepare, but we just wanted to get it out and done. But who knows? Well, maybe so you can rejoin me again and we can go over the predictions and stuff at the end of the season. But without further ado, obviously, thanks you for watching all 47 minutes of the stream if you did. Fair play to you. It's taken quite a while, but without further ado. Exactly. And as Mr. Bulwer would say, Damon Hill, Damon Hill, Damon Hill.